It rarely begins as a decision. No one sits down one evening and consciously decides to turn off their emotions. It begins as a response, a quiet adjustment, a subtle retreat. After enough moments where your feelings were misunderstood, dismissed, or used against you, something inside starts to shift. You stop explaining as much. You stop reacting as deeply. You stop letting things move through you the way they once did. Not because you don't feel, but because feeling has started to feel unsafe. At first, this shift feels like relief. You don't cry as easily. You don't get as attached. You don't spiral over every interaction. There's a sense of control that wasn't there before. Where emotions once flooded in without permission, now there's distance, space, containment. And in a world that often punishes sensitivity, this can feel like growth, like maturity, like strength. But psychologically, emotional shutdown is not about becoming stronger. It's about becoming safer. When the nervous system learns that emotional openness leads to pain, it adapts. It narrows the range of feeling. It dampens intensity. It creates a buffer between you and the world. This isn't a flaw. It's biology. Your brain is designed to protect you, even if the protection comes at a cost. People who turn off their emotions often have a history of giving too much too early. They trusted deeply. They cared intensely. They felt things fully. And at some point, the emotional return didn't match the emotional investment. They were left holding feelings that had nowhere to go. Over time, the mind makes an association. Emotion equals risk. Vulnerability equals loss. Attachment equals pain. And so the system learns to pull back before it gets hurt again. From the outside, this can look like indifference, calmness, detachment. But internally, it's often exhaustion. Emotional fatigue that comes from constantly managing disappointment. When emotions become overwhelming, numbing feels like the only way to function. So you tell yourself you're just being logical now, that you're no longer naive, that you're finally protecting yourself. Psychology calls this emotional suppression, but that term doesn't capture the lived experience. Suppression sounds deliberate. What's actually happening is more instinctive. Your system lowers the volume on feelings because the intensity became unmanageable. You don't stop feeling altogether. You just stop letting feelings reach consciousness fully. You stay functional, but distant, present, but guarded. Over time, this creates a new identity. You become the strong one, the unbothered one, the one who doesn't need much, and people reinforce it. They admire your calm. They rely on your stability. They assume you're fine because you don't show distress. And because you've learned that showing emotion leads to complications, you let them believe it. But there's a quiet tension beneath the surface. Because emotions don't disappear when they're ignored. They get stored in the body, in the nervous system, in patterns of thought and behavior. Suppressed sadness can turn into numbness. Suppressed anger can turn into irritability or withdrawal. Suppressed fear can turn into chronic overthinking. The body keeps responding, even when the mind pretends everything is under control. One of the most misunderstood aspects of emotional shutdown is that it's not selective. You don't just turn off pain. You turn down everything. Joy becomes muted. Excitement feels distant. Connection feels shallow. You may still enjoy things, but not with the same depth. Life starts to feel flatter, quieter, less textured. Not bad enough to alarm anyone, but not fulfilling enough to feel alive. This is why many people who turn off their emotions describe a strange sense of emptiness. Nothing is technically wrong. Life is stable. Responsibilities are handled, but something feels missing. And because they've learned to distrust emotions, they struggle to name what it is. They assume it's boredom, or lack of motivation, or laziness, but often it's emotional disconnection. Another psychological layer is control. When emotions once felt chaotic or overwhelming, shutting them down creates predictability. You know how you'll respond. You know what to expect from yourself. But control has a hidden cost. It reduces spontaneity. It limits vulnerability. It keeps relationships safe, but shallow. You may avoid conflict, but you also avoid intimacy. People who turn off their emotions often become highly self-reliant. They stop asking for help. They stop sharing uncertainty. They stop leaning on others. Not because they don't want connection, but because dependence feels dangerous. If you don't need anyone, no one can disappoint you. If you don't attach, no one can leave you. This logic makes sense emotionally, but it quietly isolates you. And isolation reinforces the shutdown. The less you share, the less you're understood. The less you're understood, the more you retreat. Over time, this becomes a cycle. You protect yourself by withdrawing, and the withdrawal confirms your belief that you're alone with your feelings. So you go deeper into self-containment, telling yourself this is just how you are now. But emotional shutdown is not a personality trait. It's a state, a learned response to emotional overload. And like all learned responses, it can change, but only if it's understood without judgment. The turning point often comes not through crisis, but through realization. A quiet moment where you notice that you're no longer hurting the way you used to, but you're also no longer feeling the way you want to. Where safety has replaced aliveness. Where protection has come at the expense of connection. And this realization can be unsettling, because it challenges the very strategy that helped you survive. Psychologically, the goal isn't to turn emotions back on all at once. That would overwhelm the system again. The goal is regulation, not exposure. Learning how to feel without flooding. How to be open without collapsing. How to stay connected without losing yourself. This is emotional maturity, not emotional suppression. One of the most important shifts is understanding that emotions are not the enemy. They are data. They inform boundaries. They highlight needs. They signal when something aligns or doesn't. When you ignore emotions, you don't become stronger. You become less informed. You lose access to internal guidance that helps you navigate life authentically. Many people who shut down emotionally are actually deeply sensitive. They feel intensely, which is why the shutdown happened in the first place. Sensitivity without safety leads to overwhelm, but sensitivity with boundaries becomes wisdom. The problem was never feeling too much. It was feeling too much without protection, support, or understanding. Another overlooked aspect is grief. Emotional shutdown often follows unprocessed loss. Loss of relationships, loss of identity, loss of expectations, loss of safety. When grief isn't given space, it doesn't resolve. It hardens, and numbness becomes easier than mourning. But grief doesn't disappear when avoided. It waits. It surfaces later, often in quieter, heavier ways. Relearning how to feel begins with permission. Permission to feel slowly. Permission to feel imperfectly. Permission to feel without needing to explain or justify. This doesn't mean opening up to everyone. It means choosing safety intentionally. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Emotional openness without discernment is not healing. It's exposure. This is where boundaries matter. Boundaries allow emotion without collapse. They let you stay present without overextending. They create containers where feelings can move without overwhelming the system. When boundaries are in place, emotions stop feeling like threats and start feeling manageable. Another key shift is self-trust. Emotional shutdown often damages trust in your own feelings. You may believe that if you let yourself feel, you'll lose control. But control isn't the absence of emotion. It's the ability to respond to emotion consciously. This skill develops through experience, not avoidance. People who reconnect with their emotions often notice something surprising. The pain they feared isn't as endless as they imagined. Feelings rise, peak, and pass. The nervous system learns that it can tolerate emotion without being destroyed by it. And with that learning fear loosens its grip. It's also important to recognize that turning off your emotions once served a purpose. It kept you functional. It helped you endure something difficult. That deserves respect, not shame. But strategies that protect us in one season can limit us in another. Growth often means updating old defenses, not criticizing ourselves for having them. As emotions slowly come back online, there can be discomfort. Sensitivity increases. Old feelings resurface. You may feel raw or uncertain. This doesn't mean you're regressing. It means you're thawing. And thawing always feels messy before it feels freeing. Connection changes too. Relationships deepen when emotion returns. Not all relationships survive this shift. Some were built around your emotional absence. Others strengthen as you show up more fully. This can be scary, but it's also clarifying. You start seeing who you actually feel safe with, not just who you've learned to tolerate. Ultimately, emotional protection doesn't require emotional absence. It requires discernment, boundaries, and self-awareness. You don't have to feel everything for everyone. You don't have to expose your inner world to be authentic. But you do deserve access to your own emotional life. Turning off your emotions may have been necessary once. It may have saved you. But living permanently in shutdown is not peace. It's containment. And while containment can prevent pain, it also prevents depth. At some point, the system asks for more. Not more intensity, but more truth. If you find yourself emotionally distant, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means your system adapted to something difficult. And adaptation is intelligent. But intelligence can evolve. Protection can become connection. Safety can expand to include feeling again. You don't need to force your emotions back on. You need to create conditions where feeling becomes safe. Slowly, gently, on your terms. Because the goal was never to feel nothing. The goal was to feel without being hurt. And that is a skill you can learn.